Hi everyone, this is Kavita. I've been an entrepreneur for the last 18 years and have been lucky to move around the globe with multiple job profiles. Um, of course, I originate from India, as you can probably make that out. And I have been working in the US, in the UK, and for the last 5 years, I have been in Singapore as a digital lead for an agency. Apart from the passion for digital, I also head events which are running out of India at the moment. And hopefully, I will be doing a lot more activities in the entrepreneurship space in the near future. So, I've been asked to talk about global entrepreneurship, and I didn't realize till recently that, I am actually a global entrepreneur, till it kind of hit me, and that based on all the places I've been. So I looked around to, see what people are sharing in terms of global entrepreneurship, and I saw there were a lot of hacks being talked about and how to be a great global citizen and things like that. And I said, yeah, cool. I mean, it made a lot of sense considering how the internet has combined us into one big family and how we are no longer dependent on things to, kind of figure out whether we want to work in one particular location or we want to run a global company or we want to service clients across the world. I mean, it's all there, for our taking. So there were some things that I've learned in the past few years of my experience, and I thought I would share that with you, and maybe there would be resonance in that. And of course, I would be very happy to hear from you as well to understand how your entrepreneurship experience is heading. You can tweet to me at write to Kavita, or you can just find me on Facebook somewhere. I'm quite active on social media, especially because we are all global, remember? So when I start talking about being global and learning from our environment, one of the things that struck me as a very strong component in the existence that we have is the ability to observe in every economy, in every country that you walk in, uh, rather than trying to talk more about ourselves. It was always a good idea to be observant first, and observation is a great teacher. It's been something that I've been doing for a while, and I see that I actually carry a notebook around with me all the time to help myself in writing down ideas or thoughts that I'm having, or observing people, observing certain behavioral patterns, or even observing what is culturally correct. Because, of course, if you are working in deep parts of Asia and then if you're working on deep parts of the US, there are going to be cultural differences. But now, not so much, luckily, and I think everybody is used to our different cultural nuances and appreciates that quite well. On observation, I also noticed that when you are observing, you're learning, and when you're observing, you're also giving a very good impression to a person across you as being attentive. So that creates a good impression. And of course, observation also makes you talk intelligently at some point. So that was one of the hacks that I still use, is that if I'm walking into a multicultural event or a meeting, I make sure that I'm on a very acute observation mode and noticing everything that's happening around me. Then, of course, the next element, which I'm sure you would read pretty much across everywhere, is that you should read about any economy that you are going to be in. Of course, when I say read, a lot of it comes off the internet. I do read a lot of blogs that are there, which are popular in specific regions. So, for example, in Singapore, I actually read many Singaporean specific blogs to understand. When I first moved here, I didn't understand a lot of cultural nuances, and especially Singlish. So I actually had to read a few things to kind of, figure it out. And I write them down if I hear something that I don't understand. I actually write it down and then go back to our dear friend Google and take a look at it from there as well. And so, apart from observation and reading, which is very self initiated when you are trying to work in a global environment, one of the other things that helped me a lot in every economy that I worked in was the ability to network. Now, I'm not sure about you, but I'm a working parent, so I have two young kids as well, who are obviously kind of expecting me around in the evening. And the maternal instinct also kind of kicks in and wants me to be back home with them. But a couple of days of the week, I do isolate them for networking and to go out and just meet. I've made some of my best friends in Singapore out of networking. I still use networking as a good example to set for my team as well if they are going to a specific location. However, some tips on networking is that you should be careful about the events that you choose. They should align with what you're doing, because I have occasionally found myself at some very random events which are not aligned to what I do, and then I don't know about you, but I sometimes feel like a misfit, like an imposter, and then I decide that, oh my God, I should have just read about this a little bit more. And of course, sometimes you can also go to a very lateral event, like something that you don't do, like for a dance event or for a musical event, which is around the space of networking. You're going to make some great friends there, and that helps in being in a new environment. It also, again, you kick back and kind of roll in your power of observations at that time as well, and you can see how people react to a social environment, and that's a great teacher when you are working in a global situation. Of course, going back and forth with global teams is another ballgame altogether. You need to also be the conduit if you're managing global teams, like teams between two locations. So you might want to port some of the cultural understanding back to the team that you're managing as well, like the way we do here. So those were my first three hacks, and I have three more to go. And I've been watching, as you can see, I've been watching videos online that have these, that give you all these life lessons. And I've learned that, you need to be quite engaging. So in case you've fallen asleep in the middle of what I'm talking, maybe you can just kind of stand up, stretch a bit, like stretch yourself a bit, and come back and get back to the next three hacks that I have in mind. Uh, so when I moved to Singapore first, I was uh, quite new. I had been working in my global organizations for uh, a while. I've largely been in the US, which is a very digitized economy. So there are no letters to be sent out. There are no faxes to be done. Everything is e-fax. And when I moved here, and one of our new clients asked us to send over a fax, you wouldn't believe it, but that actually brought me down to tears. I was like, oh my God, I don't know how to fax. And it was ridiculous because I had 15 years of work experience and I yet couldn't send out a fax. So I started from the bottom again, and I started learning how to scan actually, and how to fax. And it was interesting because I noticed that we sometimes let go of the little things that are around us and take those for granted. So one of the things that, again, when you're working globally, is to take nothing for granted. Every economy, every setup, whether it is in Asia or in Europe or in the US, will work differently. So to be appreciative of what you have, luckily in Asia we have decent office help and everything, but sometimes in Europe you have to do everything yourself. So those can kind of create certain challenges, especially for folks like me who didn't realize for the longest period that faxing was a big deal. And then you come around to appreciating what you get in the office. Of course, productivity elements, the cultural bonding that you put together in the company, all of that will matter. And all of that will come from the fact that you are looking at being immersive in your experience when you are working in a global situation. When I say immersive, there's no holding back, so you don't hold yourself back when you are in a new geography, or if you are working with a multicultural team. You look at making sure that you are giving more than what you can, so you're giving like 120% of yourself on that. So that's something that I felt was very important. I saw many friends that would consider uh, holding themselves back a little bit, where they were like, okay, it's my 9 to 5 job, it's okay, I don't need to take my personality to work. And I think that was a little bit detrimental to how they were planning to position themselves. It's a great learning experience to work multiculturally, to work with teams across the globe, to work with new environments, to work with clients who are different from where you are coming from. It creates a lot of opportunity to procreate great ideas. And that's something which will only come when you are completely immersed in that experience. And that's something I felt was very critical, because what I also feel is that you're usually in a place for a while. You may continue to be there forever, but you might also move on. Keeping that in mind, it makes full sense to kind of give completely to what you're doing at this time. And of course, you can take all these ideas and put it across to different areas as well. You can put it to your personal life, being immersive in your personal life, observing in your personal life, observing with friends, or reading is a good habit nonetheless for anything, right? Or networking to grow your business. These are actually quite generic when you think of it, but when you start looking at it from a specific purpose of being in a global environment where you, an entrepreneur, needs to know what's going around you, you'll find that they're quite helpful. Right, so I'm still keeping count of the hacks that I'm talking about. And I think the last two are actually my favorite, and the ones that I felt have changed me as a person as well. And I think that's what Change School is all about, is what you have done to change yourself. So one of the things that probably when you are younger, and of course, please don't ask how old I am. I can take that conversation aside. So one of the things that I learned is that also to forget all about judgment. And again, you might say that judgment, lack of judgment, or removal of judgment is something that a lot of us try to do. But today, when you are an entrepreneur, and when you are handling teams that are delivering a product or a service, and you're meeting client expectations, it's essential to remove judgment from the equation, because that kinds of clouds your decision making. It creates a mental makeup that you can live without. You don't need to have judgment to make the right decision, especially when it comes on a personal note. So if you have judgment, then keep it for very objective elements. Don't bring in judgment for individuals, for organizations, or even for a person's behavior, because if one thing that can change very rapidly, it's a person. So you would want to kind of forget all about judgment. And I can actually honestly, and they say heart, hand on heart kind of stuff, tell you that I have got rid of a lot of judgmental attitude that I probably had a decade ago. And yes, don't ask me again how old I am. And so when we talked about judgment, you would say that, oh, well, again, that applies to personal life. Of course it does. And there is no way that you can separate an individual from the personal, from the person that he or she is versus the professional that he or she is. They pretty much bring each other to either the work or the home place. So if you are able to forget or reserve, not even reserve, I mean, when somebody tells me reserve judgment, I feel that okay, I'm reserving it right now, but I can take it later on. But when you talk about forgetting judgment, it's that you're actually taking it out and just throwing it away as a useless element in your head. And I feel very strongly about people who are very judgmental. Again, then you might say that I'm judging, but I kind of file it as an observation about who they are. And of course, now that I'm done with the top five that I've got, the last and very important element that came across as a benefit of being in a global workplace was the ability to evolve. Now, you say again, it's such a broad term. Evolution has been there for ages. We've been monkeys at one time, and we've now evolved, hopefully, to decent looking human beings. But when you say, evolving as a person, is when you follow the first five, they change you. When you're observing, you're learning every day. And that's developing a mental makeup for you, which is also supported by how you're reading. When you're networking and meeting new people, you're also learning and changing something in you as well. As in, if you like something about somebody, or if you like a way somebody talks, you are going to emulate it, whether consciously or subconsciously. If you like a term, or if you like a phrase from somebody's conversation, you're probably going to bring it into your own conversation. And if you're immersing yourself into the culture that you're in, you're also going to be changing as a person. And lastly, if you are reserving judgment, oh, sorry, I said not to say reserving judgment. If you are forgetting judgment, there in itself you're evolving as a person. So I can safely say that, when I look back at myself 15 years ago, and I can show you photographs for physical evolution as well and mental evolution, I can say I've definitely evolved as a person. And it has only been made possible because I've been lucky to work across the globe over multi-location offices with a vast cultural set of people. And also that the fact that, at one point of time, just to give you an example, at not at one point of time, maybe about 3 years ago, I was very scared to even come up and talk, let alone talk to a group of people. I wouldn't be able to actually come and face the camera like I'm doing today and talk to the black hole that is in front of me right now. I was very scared to go up on stage. I had acute case of stage fright. And even though I was running my own events, which were pretty large in India, I rarely ever went up on stage and announced a speaker or announced anything or did that. And that's what I wanted to change about myself, because I felt that that was something that really something that I wanted to do. So one of the things that I started doing in Singapore a couple of years back was I started having webinars where I wouldn't need to make eye contact with anybody, but I could just get into a flow of conversation. And slowly that helped me immensely to evolve as well. So that was like a personal hack to change myself, again made possible by the fact that, we were in a global environment. A lot of people would log in from all over the world. I was not seeing everybody's faces right away, but at least I was talking about the subject matter that I knew and believed in, and that made it very easy for me to change this whole bit about stage fright and being able to talk in on camera. So I hope this has been useful for you. You can, of course, write to me at on Facebook or on Twitter, and of course, you can. I hope I'm not being too bad on the camera yet, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.